Speak now or forever hold your peace. The pastor's voice echoed through the sun-drenched Houston ballroom. The bride, Simone, a vision in white, squeezed the hand of her handsome groom. But as she smiled lovingly at him, her eyes flickered for a split second to his 9-year-old daughter in the front row. It was a look of pure ice. That's when the little girl Maya shot to her feet. Her voice, trembling but loud enough for everyone to hear, ripped through the perfect moment. "I have a reason," she cried out, pointing a shaky finger at the bride. "Daddy, don't marry her. I heard her on the phone with a man named Marcus. She's going to put tasteless poison in your coffee on your honeymoon in Austin. She's doing it to steal your life insurance money." Hello everyone and welcome to our channel. If this is your first time here, do us a favor and hit that like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Trust me, you are not going to believe where this story goes. To understand what led to that unbelievable moment, we have to go back to the gray, quiet days a year before, when Maya's world had lost all its color. The sudden death of her mother, Lena, in a car crash had shattered their family, leaving Maya and her father, Andre, to navigate a world that suddenly felt empty and frightening. Andre, a kind and loving man, was completely lost. The light in his eyes had gone out, replaced by a permanent haze of grief. He would forget to eat, he'd stare at the wall for hours, and Maya, though only 8 years old, knew she had to become his rock. She took on the role of caregiver, making sure he ate, reminding him of appointments, and learning to manage their small household in a way no child should have to. She missed her mother with a constant, sharp ache, but she channeled her pain into a fierce determination to protect her father. Then 6 months later, Simone entered their lives. Andre met her at the local H-E-B, and for the first time in a year, Maya heard her father laugh again. Simone was beautiful, charming, and seemed to breathe life back into him. The gray began to fade from their world as Andre started smiling, planning outings, and looking toward the future. Maya wanted to be happy for him, but a cold knot of dread formed in her stomach every time Simone was around. The woman's smiles were like masks, perfect on the surface but hiding something cold underneath. When she thought no one was watching, her eyes would become hard and calculating. Maya remembered her mother's words, "Trust your gut, my sweet girl. It will never lie to you." Maya's gut was screaming that Simone was a liar. Her fears were confirmed piece by painful piece. First, she watched from the top of the stairs as Andre proposed. When Simone thought Maya couldn't see her face, her joyful expression melted into a look of cold, greedy satisfaction. Then a few weeks later, Maya overheard a phone call. Simone's voice was stripped of its usual sweetness, replaced by a sharp, demanding tone. "Is everything ready, Marcus?" she'd snapped into her phone. "He's completely fooled. Once I'm his wife, that life insurance policy is as good as ours." The name Marcus and the mention of insurance money sent a wave of terror through Maya. She tried to warn her father, telling him she had a bad feeling about Simone, but he brushed it off as a child's jealousy. "She makes me happy, Maya," he'd said, his voice pleading. "Please just give her a chance." Maya knew then that she was on her own. She had to find proof, something her father couldn't ignore. Her chance came a week before the wedding. Simone left her purse unattended, and Maya's shaking hands found a small notebook. She didn't have time to read it all, but one page made her blood run cold. It was a list: honeymoon Austin. Coffee morning 2. Tasteless. Has it? Had to be Marcus. It was the confirmation of a plan so evil, Maya could barely breathe. She knew what she had to do. She had to wait for the perfect moment, the one moment when the whole world would be forced to listen. The moment when a bride couldn't hide and a father couldn't look away. But knowing what she had to do didn't make it any less terrifying. Last night, lying in her bed, she'd heard Simone one last time, whispering on the phone in the hallway, believing Maya was asleep. She had crept to the door, her heart pounding, and pressed her ear to the wood, listening to the final chilling details. "The wedding is tomorrow," Simone whispered. "It's almost over. Yes, the poison is all set. He'll drink it in his morning coffee on the second day. It will look just like a heart attack. A tragic end for the poor widower. No one will ever suspect a thing." For a full 10 seconds the world stopped. The beautiful ballroom, filled with the scent of roses and the smiling faces of friends and family, was frozen in a thick, stunned silence. Every eye was locked on the 9-year-old girl standing alone in the aisle. Andre stared at his daughter, his face a mixture of shock, confusion, and deep hurt. He looked from Maya's terrified, determined face to Simone's, expecting her to laugh, to dismiss this as a child's wild fantasy. Simone did not laugh. For one terrifying second, her beautiful face went completely blank, her eyes turning as hard and cold as stones. It was a look of pure, cornered rage. But just as quickly the mask was back in place. Her expression melted into one of deep, sorrowful concern. Tears welled in her eyes as she turned to Andre, her voice trembling with practiced heartbreak. "Oh, Peter, darling," she whispered loud enough for the first few rows to hear. "I told you she was struggling. The poor thing. She's just so confused and sad about her mother. She doesn't want to share you with anyone. I knew we should have waited. She was good." Her performance was so believable that murmurs of sympathy started to ripple through the crowd. People looked at Maya not as a hero, but as a troubled child throwing a tragic tantrum. Andre was torn. This was his daughter, his Maya, who had never told him a serious lie in her life. But this accusation was insane. Poison? A man named Marcus? It sounded like something from a movie. He took a step towards Maya, his voice gentle but firm. "Maya, sweetheart, what are you saying? That's a very, very serious thing to accuse someone of. Why would you make up something so terrible?" "I'm not making it up." Maya's voice cracked and she could feel tears of frustration burning her eyes. No one believed her. She looked around the room at all the doubtful faces and her heart sank. They all thought she was the bad guy. "Daddy, you have to listen to me." "See," Simone said softly, dabbing a fake tear from her eye. "She's hysterical. Peter, maybe we should just stop this for now. We can talk to her at home. Let's not make a bigger scene." She tried to take his arm to lead him away to regain control of the situation. But Maya saw what she was doing. Simone was trying to get him alone, where she could whisper her sweet lies and turn him against his own daughter forever. Maya's fear was suddenly replaced by a surge of desperate courage. "No. I have proof," she shouted. Simone froze. "Proof?" she scoffed, trying to make it sound ridiculous. "What proof could a little girl possibly have?" "The note," Maya said, her hand diving into her pocket. "I have the note from your purse. The one where you wrote down what you needed. It says, 'tasteless poison' on it." A new wave of gasps went through the room. Simone's face paled slightly, but she quickly recovered, forcing a sad little laugh. "Oh, honey. A note you found?" she said, looking at Andre with pity. "She probably wrote it herself. She's been acting out for weeks, trying to get attention. We both know that." Andre looked at Maya, his eyes filled with doubt again. It was true. Maya had been quiet and withdrawn lately. He had assumed it was because of the wedding, but maybe Simone was right. Maybe it was something more. Just as Maya felt all hope slipping away, a calm, steady voice cut through the tension. "Hold on a minute, Andre." All heads turned. In the second row, a tall, well-dressed man stood up. It was Uncle Charles, Andre's older brother. He wasn't looking at Maya with pity or at Simone with anger. He was just watching, his expression thoughtful and serious. "Let's just calm down for a second," Uncle Charles said, walking slowly into the aisle. "Andre, this is Maya. Our Maya. She doesn't lie. She doesn't make up cruel stories. If she's saying something this serious, the least we can do is listen to her." Uncle Charles's support was like a shield for Maya. He was the one person in the room who saw her, not a hysterical child. Andre looked at his brother, then back at his daughter, and a flicker of resolve entered his eyes. He turned to the woman he was about to marry. His voice was quiet, but it carried a new weight. "Simone," he asked, "who is Marcus?" The name hit Simone like a physical blow. Her perfect composure finally cracked. Her eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal looking for an escape. "And Marcus?" she stammered, the color draining from her face. I don't know anyone named Marcus. That's a ridiculous name." "Yes, you do," Maya insisted, stepping closer. "You talk to him on the phone all the time when you think I'm asleep. You told him you would be set for life once you got the insurance money. That was the final straw. The combination of the name, the poison, and the insurance money was too specific to be a child's fantasy. The lie was too big for even Simone to cover. She saw it in Andre's eyes, the dawning horror, the sickening realization that he had been a fool. The trap she had so carefully built for him was now snapping shut on her. And in that moment Simone snapped. The mask of the sweet, grieving bride didn't just slip, It shattered into a million pieces. Her face, moments ago soft with fake tears, twisted into a horrifying snarl of pure, uncut rage. "You little brat!" she shrieked, her voice no longer smooth honey but sharp, broken glass. The entire church flinched at the raw venom in her tone. "You have ruined everything. Do you have any idea what you just cost me?" Forgetting the crowd, forgetting the pastor, forgetting the man she was about to marry, she took a menacing step toward Maya, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "I should have dealt with you weeks ago." The ugly words hung in the air, thick and poisonous. For a heartbeat, the entire wedding party was paralyzed by the raw hatred radiating from the woman in white. Simone's beautiful face was a twisted mask of fury, her eyes locked on the small child who had single-handedly destroyed her perfectly crafted world. But the moment her foot moved toward Maya, the spell was broken. "Get away from my daughter." Andre's voice was a roar of pure, protective rage. The hurt, confused man from moments ago was gone, replaced by a father defending his child. He moved so fast he was a blur, scooping Maya up and placing her safely behind him. At the same time, Uncle Charles stepped forward, positioning himself squarely between Simone and his family. He was taller than her, a calm and unmovable wall. "That's enough, Simone," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "It's over." The sight of the two men standing as a united front against her seemed to finally make Simone realize her catastrophic error. She had let her rage take over. She had confessed everything with her anger. Her eyes darted around the ballroom, seeing not a crowd of adoring guests, but 100 witnesses. People were standing up, their phones out, recording her downfall. The fairytale wedding had devolved into a true crime spectacle. Panic replaced her anger. Her eyes, wide and terrified, searched for an escape route. She saw a side door marked "Exit" near the caterer's station. Without another word, she hitched up her expensive white dress and bolted. "Don't let her leave," Andre yelled. But Uncle Charles was already moving. He pointed decisively at the two security guards who stood, stunned, by the main entrance. "Stop her. Now. She's a flight risk." The guards snapped into action, moving to intercept Simone just as she reached the door. She struggled, her beautiful dress tearing as she fought against their hold. "Let go of me," she screamed, her voice shrill and desperate. "You can't do this. I haven't done anything wrong." But no one was listening to her lies anymore. The entire room had heard her threaten a child. Uncle Charles already had his phone to his ear. "Yes, I need police at the majestic ballroom downtown immediately," he said, his voice the epitome of calm in the chaos. "We have a woman who has just admitted to planning a murder." "Yes, I'll hold." Andre meanwhile knelt in front of Maya, his hands on her small shoulders. He looked into her eyes, and his own were filled with a terrible, gut-wrenching shame. He had been so lost in his own happiness that he had almost led them both into a nightmare. He had doubted her. He had dismissed her fears. And she had saved him anyway. "Maya, oh my sweet girl," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He pulled her into a hug so tight it almost squeezed the air out of her. She could feel him shaking. "I'm so sorry. You were trying to tell me and I didn't listen. You were so brave. You saved my life, Maya. You saved me." Tears finally spilled from Maya's eyes, but they weren't tears of fear anymore. They were tears of relief. He believed her. He was safe. She wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight, burying her face in his tuxedo jacket. Within 10 minutes, the wail of sirens cut through the frantic buzz of the crowd. 2 uniformed police officers entered first, followed by a woman in a sharp blazer with a detective's badge clipped to her belt. She had a calm, no-nonsense air about her, and her sharp eyes took in the entire bizarre scene. The panicked bride in a torn dress held by security, the groom comforting his crying daughter, the stunned guests, without betraying a hint of surprise. "I'm Detective Franklin," she announced, her voice cutting cleanly through the noise. "Can someone tell me exactly what's going on here?" Uncle Charles stepped forward, phone still in hand. "I'm Charles Williams. This is my brother, Andre, and his daughter, Maya. We called." "That woman," he said, pointing to Simone, "is Andre's fiancée. Or was. She was just publicly accused by my 9-year-old niece of a conspiracy to commit murder." Detective Franklin raised a skeptical eyebrow but nodded, walking over to where the guards held Simone. "Ma'am, what's your name?" "Simone Richards," she spat, her eyes full of venom. "And I haven't done anything. This is a family dispute. That child is mentally unstable." "An unstable child you threatened to deal with, in front of 200 people?" Uncle Charles countered calmly. Detective Franklin's gaze sharpened on Simone. "We're going to have to take you downtown to sort this out. Please don't make this any more difficult." As the officers began to escort a now protesting Simone away, the detective knelt to be at eye level with Maya, who was still clinging to her father. Her voice softened considerably. "Hello, Maya. I'm Detective Franklin," she said gently. "Your uncle said you made a very serious accusation. I know this must be very scary, but can you tell me why you did that?" Maya took a shaky breath, feeling her father's hand stroking her back reassuringly. Because she was going to hurt my daddy," she whispered. "She was going to poison him." "How do you know that?" the detective asked, her eyes kind but focused. "I heard her," Maya said, her voice growing stronger. "On the phone. Lots of times. She was talking to a man named Marcus. And I have this." Her fingers, still trembling slightly, went into the pocket of her dress and pulled out the crumpled note. She handed it to the detective. Detective Franklin carefully unfolded the paper. She stared at the two words written in elegant cursive for a long moment. "Tasteless poison." Her expression became grim. This was no longer just a bizarre family drama. "This note," she said, looking up at Andre. "Where did it come from?" "She said she found it in Simone's purse," Andre answered, his voice hoarse. Detective Franklin nodded, standing up. She walked over to where an officer was holding Simone's bridle clutch. "I'm going to need to look through this," she stated, not asking for permission. She opened the small, beaded bag and began to empty its contents into a clear evidence bag. A tube of lipstick, a compact mirror, a phone, and a slim leather card holder. "What do you think you're doing?" Simone shrieked from the doorway. "You need a warrant for that. Conspiracy to commit murder gives me probable cause to believe this bag contains evidence of a crime in progress. We can sort out the legalities later," Detective Franklin said coolly, not taking her eyes off the items. She opened the leather card holder, intending to find Simone's driver's license to confirm her identity. She found one. It had Simone's picture, perfectly smiling with the name Simone Richards, issued by the state of Texas. But it was tucked behind another license. The detective's fingers slid it out. It was another Texas license. The picture was also of Simone, though her hair was a different color. The name on it was Helen Gable. Andre and Charles exchanged a confused look. The detective's eyes narrowed. She delved deeper into the card holder and pulled out a third license. This one was from Louisiana. Same picture, different hairstyle. The name read Catherine Monet. Then came a fourth from Florida with the name Rebecca Finch. Detective Franklin laid the 4 IDs out on a nearby table. 4 different names for different states, all with the same smiling, predatory face. The room, which had quieted to a low murmur, fell completely silent once again. Andre stared at the licenses, his face ashen. The woman he had loved, the woman he had asked to be his wife and a mother to his child, wasn't real. She was a ghost, a collection of lies printed on plastic. He wasn't just betrayed, he had been targeted by a phantom. Maya peeked around her father's legs. Her eyes widened as she saw the different names. She had known Simone was a bad person, a liar. But she never imagined that Simone wasn't even a real person at all. Detective Franklin looked from the fake IDs to the woman being held at the door. Her voice was cold as steel. "Simone Richards," she said, holding up the 4 cards. "Or Helen or Catherine or Rebecca. Just who in the hell are you?" The 4 plastic cards lay on the table like a royal flush in a devil's poker game. Simone, or Helen or Catherine or Rebecca, stared at her exposed life, and her face became a terrifyingly blank canvas. The rage was gone, the panic was gone, replaced by a chilling emptiness. The mask was off, but so was the emotion. All that remained was a cold, hard core of pure criminality. She didn't answer Detective Franklin's question. She simply straightened her posture, lifted her chin, and spoke in a voice devoid of any feeling. "I want a lawyer." And that was it. She said nothing else. She was silent as the officers officially put her in handcuffs, her expression unreadable. She was silent as they read her Miranda rights. She was silent as they led her out of the ruined wedding hall, past the stunned guests who were now giving official statements to other officers, their happy wedding attire a bizarre contrast to the grim reality of the situation. Andre watched her go, and a profound wave of nausea washed over him. He hadn't just been deceived, he had been hunted. The entire relationship, every laugh, every shared meal, every comforting word she had spoken to him in his grief, had been a calculated part of a predator's game. He felt a deep, humiliating shame, but it was quickly overshadowed by a tidal wave of gratitude as he looked down at Maya, who was still holding his hand tightly. Okay, Mr. Williams, Detective Franklin said, her voice pulling him back to the present. I know this is a nightmare, but I need you, your brother, and especially your brave daughter to come down to the station. We need to get formal recorded statements from all of you while the details are still fresh. The drive to the downtown Houston police precinct was the quietest, heaviest car ride of Andre's life. Uncle Charles drove, his jaw set grimly, while Andre sat in the back with Maya tucked under his arm. The adrenaline of the confrontation had vanished, leaving behind a thick, syrupy exhaustion. The world outside the car window seemed to move in slow motion, oblivious to the fact that their own world had just been torn apart and haphazardly stitched back together. Andre looked down at Maya's head resting on his chest. Her eyelids were heavy. She was just a kid who should have been worrying about flower girl duties, not international fugitives. Maya, he whispered, his voice cracking. I will never ever be able to thank you enough for what you did today. Maya looked up at him, her eyes wide and serious. I was scared you wouldn't believe me. I'm so sorry I made you feel that way, he said, his voice thick with regret. A father is supposed to protect his daughter, and today, you protected me. I will spend the rest of my life making sure I listen to you, I promise. I am so incredibly proud of you. Maya gave him a small, tired smile and snuggled closer. For the first time all day, she felt the tight knot of fear in her chest begin to loosen just a little. The police station was a stark, sterile environment of linoleum floors and fluorescent lights. It was the opposite of the warm, loving home Andre had tried to rebuild. They were led to a quiet interview room, and Detective Franklin spoke to Maya with Uncle Charles present, her approach a masterful blend of gentleness and professionalism. For over an hour, Maya recounted everything. She spoke about her initial gut feeling that Simone was faking her kindness. She described the first phone call she overheard, where Simone mentioned the insurance policy. She told the story of finding the terrifying note in the purse. And finally, she recounted the final chilling phone call from the night before, where Simone had laid out the entire murder plot in cold, precise detail. Detective Franklin recorded it all, her expression growing grimmer with every word. You have an incredible memory, Maya, the detective said when she was finished. And you are unbelievably brave. What you did today was heroic. While Maya was giving her statement, Andre sat in another room, nursing a cup of stale coffee. A different detective was asking him questions about his finances, about the life insurance policy, about his relationship with the woman he knew as Simone. It was a humiliating process, laying bare how perfectly he had been set up as a mark. An hour later, Detective Franklin entered the room where Andre was waiting. She closed the door behind her, and her face was grave. Mr. Williams, your daughter is an amazing kid, she began. Her testimony is clear, consistent, and frankly terrifying. We've started our investigation into the woman you knew as Simone Richards. Did you find out who she is? Andre asked, his voice barely a whisper. We did, Franklin said, pulling up a chair. We ran her fingerprints. Her real name is Sharon Green. And she's not just a con artist, Mr. Williams. She's a ghost. She has priors for fraud in Arizona and California, but she fell off the grid 3 years ago. We believe that's when she and her partner, the man you know as Marcus, started their current operation. Andre felt a cold dread creep up his spine. Operation. Sharon Green is what we in law enforcement call a black widow. She and her partner specialize in targeting grieving widowers. Men who are emotionally vulnerable and financially stable. She creates a new identity for each target, worms her way into their lives and then they kill them, Andre finished, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. Detective Franklin nodded grimly. Her real name, Sharon Green, is flagged in connection with 2 other cases. A wealthy widower in Florida who died of a sudden heart attack on his honeymoon 2 years ago. And another man in Georgia who had a fatal boating accident just 9 months ago. Both men had recently married a woman who fit Sharon's description, and in both cases the new bride collected a massive insurance payout and then vanished. Andre put his head in his hands. It wasn't just him. There were others. Men who didn't have a brave 9-year-old daughter to save them. So this Marcus, Andre began. His real name is Marcus Thorne. He's the other half of the operation. He likely handles the logistics, the fake documents and acquiring the oil materials, Detective Franklin said carefully. He's the enforcer. With Sharon in custody, he is our #1 priority. He's a loose cannon. He could be halfway to Mexico by now, or he could be trying to figure out how to clean up this mess. She leaned forward, her expression intense. Which means, until we have him in custody, you and your family are in danger. He knows who Maya is. He knows she's the one who blew up their entire operation. This man is a professional and he is extremely dangerous. Just as the weight of her words settled in the room, Andre's cell phone, which was sitting on the table, buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. He glanced at it, frowning. His frown turned into a look of pure horror. "What is it?" Detective Franklin asked sharply, noticing his change in expression. Wordlessly, Andre turned the phone around. The screen displayed a photograph, clearly taken with a long-range lens. It was a picture of Maya, her back to the camera, holding Uncle Charles's hand as they walked up the steps and into the police station just an hour ago. Beneath the photo there was a single line of text. "You should have minded your own business." The moment Andre turned his phone around, the atmosphere in the sterile police office crackled with an electric charge of immediate danger. Detective Franklin's professional calm did not break, but her eyes hardened into chips of granite. She took the phone, her gaze flicking from the chilling photo of Maya to the taunting message below. "He's not running," she said, her voice a low, dangerous hum. "He's here. And he's watching." She was instantly on her feet, speaking into her radio with a clipped urgency that sent a fresh wave of fear through Andre. "I need an immediate protective detail for the Williams family. Witnesses under active threat. And get a trace started on this number now. I want to know where that text came from." The shift was instantaneous. Andre, Maya, and Uncle Charles were no longer just witnesses providing a statement. They were assets under police protection. The quiet interview room was suddenly filled with officers, their presence both a comfort and a terrifying confirmation of the danger they were in. "You can't go home," Detective Franklin stated, her focus entirely on Andre. "Your homes are compromised. We have a secure location for you. We'll take you now. This man, Marcus Thorne, has nothing left to lose. He's proven that he's arrogant and that he's focused on your daughter. We are not taking any chances." The journey to the safe house was a blur of flashing lights and tense silence. They were transported in an unmarked black SUV with 2 police cars escorting them, a surreal procession through the late-night Houston streets. The safe house was a nondescript suburban home in a quiet neighborhood, unremarkable on the outside but fitted with reinforced doors and windows, its every angle monitored by unseen agents. Inside, the adrenaline that had carried them through the day finally crashed, leaving behind a profound and heavy exhaustion. The reality of their situation settled in like a suffocating blanket. A killer knew Maya's face. A killer was somewhere out there in the same city and he was angry. Andre watched Maya as she curled up on the strange couch, clutching a pillow. The bravery she had shown at the wedding was gone, replaced by the quiet, wide-eyed fear of a child who understands she is being hunted. His heart shattered all over again. His mistake, his desperate need to fill the void his late wife Lena had left, had put his daughter in a murderer's crosshairs. "This is my fault," he whispered to his brother later that night as they stood in the sterile kitchen. "All of it. I was so busy trying to find happiness for myself, I didn't see the monster I was inviting into our home. I didn't listen to her, Charles." "You were grieving, Andre," Charles said, his voice firm but kind. "That woman Sharon, she's a professional. She preys on good men like you. This isn't your fault. The only thing that matters now is what you did when it counted. You stood up and protected your little girl. And she," he nodded toward the living room where Maya had drifted into a restless sleep, "did the same for you. You two saved each other. That's the only thing that matters." Back at the precinct, Detective Franklin and her team were in a frantic race against time. The burner phone that sent the text had been turned off immediately after, but the tech unit had managed to triangulate its last signal to a 3-block radius in an industrial area east of the city. "He's smart, but he's also emotional," Franklin said to her team, pointing at a map on the screen. "Threatening a kid is a mistake. It's messy. It means he's not thinking entirely straight. He's angry and angry people get sloppy." They dug into Sharon Green's life, pulling financial records and known associates. They discovered a recently leased storage unit under one of her aliases, Helen Gable. It was within the ping radius. It was a long shot, but it was the only lead they had. As a tactical team prepared to raid the storage unit, Andre's phone buzzed again. His heart leaped into his throat. It was another text from the same unknown number. "I know where you are. Cops can't protect you forever." Andre showed the text to the lead officer stationed at the safe house, who immediately related to Detective Franklin. He's trying to terrorize them, Franklin said, her jaw tight. He wants them scared. Keep him talking. We need him to keep that phone on. Under the guidance of the detective, Andre typed a reply, his fingers trembling. What do you want? The reply from Marcus was almost instant. Your daughter took everything from us. It's only fair I take something from you. The undisguised threat was a fatal mistake. The new text gave the tech team the live signal they needed. We've got him, an analyst shouted across the busy command center. He's not at the storage unit. He's in an abandoned warehouse a block over. He's stationary. We have his exact location. The tactical team rerouted, descending on the dark, silent warehouse with quiet, deadly efficiency. They breached the doors, fanning out into the massive, dusty space. In a small, cramped office in the back they found him. Marcus Thorne wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was just a man sitting in the dark, staring at a phone, his face illuminated by its pale glow. He was surrounded by bags of cash, fake passports, and the chemical components for the poison he was supposed to deliver. He surrendered without a fight, his arrogance evaporating the moment he was faced with overwhelming force. The hunt was over. 6 weeks later, the world felt blessedly normal again. The autumn sun was warm on the back deck of their home as Andre flipped burgers on the grill. The smell of barbecue smoke filled the air, mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass. Uncle Charles was there, laughing as he and Maya engaged in a fierce game of checkers. The news had been filled with the story of the Black Widow ring. The capture of Sharon Green and Marcus Thorne, thanks to the testimony of a 9-year-old girl, had led to the reopening of cold cases in 3 different states. 2 other families were finally getting the justice they deserved. Detective Franklin had called that morning with a final update. Faced with overwhelming evidence and Maya's unshakable testimony, both Sharon and Marcus had taken plea deals to avoid multiple trials. They would spend the rest of their lives in prison. They could never hurt anyone again. Andre placed a perfectly cooked burger onto a bun and brought it over to Maya, who had just triumphantly claimed victory over her uncle. You're getting too good at that, Andre said, ruffling her hair. Uncle Charles says I'm a strategic genius, she said with a proud grin. He's right, Andre said, his own smile full of a warmth she hadn't seen since before her mother passed away. He sat down beside her, his expression turning serious for a moment. Maya, I don't think I'll ever find the right words to tell you how proud I am of you. You're the strongest, bravest person I know. We're a team, Daddy, she said, leaning her head against his shoulder. We protect each other. The best team, he agreed, pulling her into a one-armed hug. That evening as she got ready for bed, Maya stood in front of her dresser. She looked at the picture of her mother, her beautiful, smiling face a source of quiet strength. Then she picked up the silver locket Lena had given her. She didn't need to open it to know what was inside. A tiny picture of her mother on one side and one of her father on the other. She had protected them both. She had listened to her heart, just like her mama had taught her. The world had turned dark and scary for a while, but she had found the courage to be the light. And now finally her family was safe. The nightmare was over.